Welcome everyone to my second vlog. Thanks for tuning in again. For those who tuned into the first one, I hope it was useful for you. This second vlog, I'd like to focus on the state planning policies. I think it's timely to have a chat about the SPPs. They've recently come off 10 weeks consultation, and I really wanted to go through some of the things about what we've heard, what the role is of SPPs and what's next. So I'll start with, I suppose, the obvious, that it's the first time we've ever had SPPs in this state. And as such, it's really not surprising that there's been some confusion in their roles and in particular how they're used in the new system. So what I want to talk to you about today is some of what they do and also importantly some of what they don't do. And I suppose luckily for us we've been able to learn from a number of other jurisdictions. State planning policies have been around across the country for quite some years. In fact, I've worked in both New South Wales and Queensland that have had SPPs for a number of years. So we've been able to learn from those other jurisdictions about what works with SPPs. It's one of the few instruments in the new system where we can actually learn from other jurisdictions. As you know, many of the new instruments in our system, we're starting from scratch and we're forging a new way. So it's really difficult to learn from other jurisdictions in respect to some of the other instruments. But for this one, we've been able to do that, and it's been very beneficial and gave us a great platform from which to start the SPPs. So in terms of their role under the PTI Act, SPPs are quite different in South Australia than they are from other jurisdictions. Fundamentally, it's because SPPs in this state do not apply in development assessment. They are not used for direct application in DA. They're a policy document that sets out the state's interest in land use planning. And I will stress that it is about land use planning. As such, they are not a state strategic plan, so they are not a strategy document. They are a policy document. And as such, they do not set population targets, they do not set economic targets. But they do express what the state cares about as it relates to land use. And this is really, really important. And SPPs will fundamentally play two key roles. They'll play a role in guiding regional planning, and they'll play a role in guiding the planning and design code. So importantly, they do bring together a disparate set of policies that have sat across state agencies for a very large number of years. Some of those policies are out in the open, some of those policies are what I call bottom drawer policies. Some things are mapped, some things are not. So this is the first time that we'll actually see all of those state planning policies put into one document, in one place, in the planning portal, supported by mapping and criteria. This is a huge step forward for us. When I came back to South Australia after 10 years away in Queensland, I could not believe how difficult it was to find out what the state cared about in land use. And now you can, because it will be in one place and it will be able to be mapped and you'll be able to have access to it 24/7. And this is a really good thing. This is the state government being open and transparent about what we care about, giving you a platform by which you can do your strategic planning to go forward. So having it all in one place on an electronic platform attached to the State Atlas is a fantastic outcome for us. So firstly, in relation to the role they play in the code, there are a number of state planning policies that will translate directly into the code, and this will be through overlay codes. So the overlay codes will need to obviously be triggered by criteria or mapping, and the work is being done now to make sure it's very clear when this extra criteria will be applied that sits within the overlay code. And where required, these additional requirements to the overlay will be linked to referrals to state agencies, and those state agencies will have powers of direction where the matter is of such significance that the state's resources need to be used to assess those. We'll also require the state government to stand up in a court if someone is challenging the position they've taken on something. This is a huge step forward from the process we have at the moment, which is a mix of regard and a mix of powers of direction. Some policies transparent, some policies less transparent. So this is a real game changer for us, and it's a really important step forward for the state to be really clear about what we care as state interest in the planning system. In relation to the code, I know you all want more information. We agree, we know you do. So my next vlog will be about the implementation of the code. And as many of you are aware, our transition team are out on a roadshow over October and November, where a strong focus of those discussions will be about code implementation and the role councils will play going forward, and in particular the important role the Commission plays in leading the transition from development plans to code. Now I'm going to talk to you about the role and the direction they provide for regional planning, another important instrument in our new system. So in relation to regional planning, the state interests outlined in the state planning policies intersect with local government interests and form the basis for strategic planning through regional plans and strategic planning at the local government level. They will help provide direction to your councils as you manage growth and change over the coming years in your local areas. And as I've said, a number of the state interests through the SPPs will be supported by maps and by criteria. So that will help you make the kind of decisions you need to make as a local government authority. It will help you do opportunities and constraints mapping. It will help you make decisions about where that growth and change can occur in your local government area as you consider amendments to the code post-July 2020. And because of this intersection of state and local interests, we can't prioritise the state planning policies. A number of submissions have actually asked us to do that, and it would be wrong of us to do that. Prioritising and balancing the SPPs in your local area or your region is a matter at that regional or that local level. If you come together through a joint planning board and want to work on a regional plan for your region, you don't want the state telling you that one interest is more important than the other. You actually want to work with the state about that balancing act for your local region or your local council. You want to make the decisions about how your council is growing or changing. You might have a council that's strong on economic development and wants to provide a lot of opportunities, whereas you might also work for a council that doesn't want significant change. These are all things that need to be driven by you and your councils at your local level, and the state planning policies provide that framework for you to start making those decisions. And that's really important because strategic planning is 101 for planners, and we need to do that with our councils and our communities. And this helps provide a basis for which to make those decisions about where you can grow and change. Hugely important, particularly when it's been potentially hidden in the past. So, what did we hear over the last 10 weeks? I thought you'd be interested to know that we've received 139 submissions, so there has been some strong interest in the state planning policies. During that time we did go to the show, we held a community panel, we had a number of open house sessions, we did a number of workshops, we did live streaming, so we did speak to a huge amount of people during that time, and the interest in it is sort of shown in those 139 submissions. Some 1 or 2 pages, some up to 60 pages. So there's been some pretty strong interest in this document, and I'm really glad that there has been because it's such an important framework and platform for the whole system. So in terms of the key areas that we heard from people, they can be themed because there was a lot of common interest, and that provides really strong direction for the Commission about where they need to improve the SPPs before they are finalised for this first generation. So in terms of some key things I'm going to read, because I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but they are better articulating the integration of land use, transport and infrastructure, and that is very, very important to that growth and change conversation. Planning's role in climate change. We all know this is critically important, and we do have a very strong role to play as it relates to climate change. The role of design in the planning system, and we're about to put out a discussion paper just about that, but we will improve the state planning policy as it relates to design. More understanding of strategic transport needs and reliable and efficient energy systems, and then also more content about heritage and character and how that can translate into the code. Been really, really important and has sort of fed through a lot of the submissions we've received. There was also a number of things raised in the submissions that really can't be dealt with in SPPs, and some of those are things I mentioned earlier. Some of them are also very detailed comments that really sit better in the code. So all of those have been captured and will be dealt with by the code team, and we'll keep you informed about how those have been addressed. So the next steps are on the 26th of October, if all goes to plan, we hope to launch the What We Heard report, and all of the submissions will be made available online. During this time, the Commission will be working closely with state agencies to make the improvements to the document with a view to having a report, a consultation report to the Minister by the end of the year, and the document through Cabinet by early next year, which then opens the way for statutory consultation on the first draft of the code in February. So we've got a lot to do in that time frame. Bear in mind that this is the first generation. There is ample opportunity for this document to get better over time as we test it, but I think it will provide a really great base. And as I've said, if nothing else, it brings all of the state interests into one document and brings mapping with that. And that is just a fundamental shift from where we've been. So I hope I've given you some insights into the SPPs, in particular their role, and how we'll be using them through regional plans and through the planning and design code, and the opportunities it brings for you to lead change with your communities and your council. But if you need to know more, of course, we're always here. Give me a ring, give your transition manager a ring, pop in for a drop-in session on a Friday. Go to get onto Council Connect. There's always, if you're confused about state planning policies or you really feel strongly about a particular matter, please pick up the phone and we're always happy to have a chat about that. We have 3 more Commission-led documents coming out before Christmas, probably in November at this stage. One is around people in neighbourhoods. We know this one, everyone's waiting to see. This is where we will have the conversation around heritage and character and housing diversity and how people live. Really important document. Another really important document is productive economies and the role that planning plays in enabling productive economies. And then of course the design in the planning system discussion paper that ODASA have been leading with the Commission. So 3 really important policy papers coming out before the end of the year. No doubt there will be discussions aplenty about those in many different ways. So I encourage you to get involved with those. For my next vlog, as I said, I'd like to have a talk about code implementation, but by all means, give me a ring if there's things you think the sector want to hear about. Give me a ring and I'll vlog about it. So thanks for listening, and until next month, enjoy the month and I will see you then. Thanks a lot, bye.